Yeah.
Thank you, brother. I'm sure I'm going to fall apart in the middle of this, so bear with me. Unless you have an alcoholic problem, would put some wine in your glass, fill it to the brim. I would, and by the way, who has red wine? Yes, sir. If you'd all put some wine in your glass, because red wine was very important to my mother. And please don't be shy. Here's a bottle of wine. We pass that down to the young man over there. Oh, there you go. There you go. Okay, here. Could you guys pass this down to Peter? Literally, take a moment. She would have wanted you to make sure you had a glass of wine. If you don't know my mother's love of red wine, then you don't know my mother, really. You don't know my mother. First of all, let's start with a toast for her.
Chin chin.
Chin chin.
You know, with some people you don't have a story. I have so many. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. Don't be sorry.
Anyway, I'm going to try to tell a fun story to start off. I'm on an airplane with my mother. I'm possibly around 16, 17 years old. She orders from this flight attendant a Bloody Mary mix, and she says, "You want a Bloody Mary?" No, I just want a Bloody Mary mix. She gets that. I get a Diet Coke, of course, because I'm on a perpetual diet, and underage. And the stewardess, goes to the next aisle, and my mother pulls out a Taster's Choice bottle of where she drank her freeze-dried coffee, except it's got a clear liquid in it, and it's got a saran wrap and a rubber band around it. Now, in this day and age, a flight attendant would wrestle her to the ground, but in those days, no one did. She pulls it out of her bag, and I go, "What's in that?" And she says, "Vodka." And she opens it up, and she pours it into her Bloody Mary mix. And I'm first outraged, and then I'm like, "Hey, give me some of that." And I pour that into my Diet Coke. And of course, she doesn't stop a 17-year-old from drinking. And of course, I report that back to my friends as like, "Can you believe my mother did that?" And Andrea here is like, "Your mother's genius. She has just picked the wrong vehicle to bring that on a plane." So Andrea's like, "It's got to be in an Evian bottle, and no one will suspect that." So I report that back to my mother, and we go on for years bringing Evian bottles onto planes when you could still bring on a bottle of water onto a plane, and of course getting hammered on planes. So years later, we go to some restaurant. If you don't remember, she liked I think it was called China Buffet or China something, some China Buffet restaurant or whatever in 4th Avenue in Brooklyn. And as you know, she liked the red wine. All of a sudden, she pulls out an Evian bottle with red wine in it. And I say, "It's not the right color. You screwed this up." Please join us. Please have a seat. They bring you some chairs on the end. We've saved some seats for you. So I say to her, now this one has to be in a Welch's juice bottle. You gotta match the color of the liquid with the item that you're doing. So of course I've learned that from my mother, and maybe a severe case of alcoholism. I'm not quite sure, but anyway, my mother was the first one in my group, and my friends now, of course, are constantly bringing whatever liquid we have into places inappropriately. But I will tell another story. So that's my first story. So she loved it, last red wine. She often wore it on her dress, but she was enjoying the red wine, and I hope you will enjoy some for her. In many ways, I grew up with the equivalent of Auntie Mame as a mother. If you met her, you did not forget her. And the messages I've got from people on how emails, since the word has gotten out that she's passed away, it's hit the Bass papers, as Anna's mentioned. It's hit a lot of different kind of news in the Bass country and the news around the world here. And the emails and messages I get from people, of how she's affected their lives. At some point in my life, I started doing square dancing, and the only square dancing club in New York City, as odd as square dancing sounds, is a gay square dancing club. It's the only one in New York City, of course. It's a gay square dancing club. And I was on a little bit of a high about it, talking about how great it was, whatever. And talking, sadly didn't see where this was going. I say to my mother, oh my God, it's great exercise, this, that, other. She says, oh, is it only gay people there? And I said, no, anyone can go. Straight. She says, so there's straight people there? I said, yeah. She says, anyone can go? And I said, yeah, anyone can go. And she goes, so I can go? And I was like, I actually took a moment, I was like, well, in theory, sure, you can go. And so then, at Gay Square Dancing, the following year after I've graduated, they do a whole thing where you learn the class. She comes in and she joins us. And many of them are here, by the way, so many square dancers in the room are from that time where she joined that club. And she walked into a sea of gay men, 3 lesbians, and 4 straight people, and she's like dancing around the room and, sorry. So the first couple times, Keith and I would take her, and we'd go with her as she was learning her lessons, and they used to do these little 2-steps where you could dance around between the squares, and Keith and I were dancing around, and suddenly a lesbian starts talking to my mother, and like, oh look, she's mingling with the people, that's great. And the next thing you know, my mother's gone, and so we realize that she's dancing around the floor with this woman, and so, we're doing the lesson, and as we're heading back to the car, I say to my mother, Mom, it was so cool you were dancing with that other woman at the wedding. And in typical way of like cutting you off, she says, well, I dance with your Aunt Eileen at every wedding, what's the big deal? And I say to Keith, I think I've just been politically corrected by my own mother. Now, you have to imagine also my mother walked in with that, if you remember her bullet hair sprayed back, she had the black turtleneck, she had the long fake pearls in a knot, and she had the wedgie shoes, which was her standard, right? That's what she wore. And so she didn't blend very well, in there. And I said, she said, do you think they thought I was a lesbian? I was like, I don't think so, Mom. I think you're right. Anyway, I have 1,000 more stories to tell about my mother, but she really, truly was like a force of nature.
Tell a Lucky Chang story.
Which one's that?
Oh,
waitresses.
She went to China at some point, and if you don't know the story, I won't tell the story, but she drank an artist under the table, I'm not kidding, and so to celebrate that, he drew a painting about her drinking him under the table and presented it to her. So when she came back from China, she wanted to, apparently, I didn't know, she had bought a Chinese outfit there, and she wanted to go out to dinner with me and Keith and Warren and Keon, who are both here tonight. And we go to Lucky Chang's, which is a drag Chinese restaurant where all the waiters are in drag and dressed up in Chinese garb, but they're really men. And what we don't realize, when she pulls up in the car to pick us up, she is dressed in her Chinese kimono. If you remember the jet black hair, the light makeup, and the red lipstick, and she has stuck, besides having 2 chopsticks in the middle of her mouth. And Keith and I are open mouthed. We're like, holy crap. And then we pick up Warren and Keon, who of course have the same reaction, like, hi. And we walk into Lucky Chang's, the drag Asian restaurant. And we're waiting at a table, and Mom is standing there, and every couple of minutes someone comes up and asks her where the men's room is, because she works there, and that she is in drag. And so, of course, we got drunk, and it was just a while too, but my mother loved every part of that. Some people would have been embarrassed about that. The fact that people thought that she was a drag employee at the restaurant just made her happier. And so she knew how to live life, and I think the lesson she taught me was about living life. And anyway, sorry for falling apart. Thank you all for coming. It means a lot to me. I know some of you are shy and don't like to speak in public. It would warm her heart if you could tell them a story about her experience with you. And it would warm my heart too. Anyway, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. To you, Mom.
Come on.
I don't know what do you want to do now? Anyone else want to tell us? Who else has a story?
Yes.
I will.
Okay, go ahead, Liz.
So I'm Elizabeth, I'm Emily's granddaughter, and I'll first start with a story just because he talked about how she loves to dress up. And so anytime she gave you a gift or a present, it came with a very long preamble about why she bought it, what it was good for, and so I think I may have been 12, and we had a barbecue for my birthday, get out of the pool, and she says, okay, now Elizabeth, I got you a very special gift. It is wonderful. It is a prom dress. I'm 12. It is a wedding dress, I'm 12, a Halloween costume, or a nightgown. I say, okay, this is odd, and it was like, take it out of the bag, and it's this, like sleeveless nightgown, very cute, but she said her suggestion, because you couldn't come up with your own costume if you were going to wear it, it was specifically to be the Bride of Frankenstein, because she had just dressed up as the Bride of Frankenstein, and so that was my gift. So that's a little taste of Emily, but just, you know, she really has, without me even knowing it subconsciously, impacted so much of who I am. I do remember going for Spanish boot camps, as all my brothers do, and I never really understood the value in focus and studying and really working hard at something. And so as a young teenager, it was always torture. And she would come over to my house and tutor me, and then I would get sent to Bay Ridge, and I would spend the weekend there, and it would be 5 hours straight, no break, no TV, no internet, no snacks, of just, you know, your butt in the chair working hard. And she would drill me on the pronunciation of yo. No, it's not yo, it's yo. No, okay, yo. No, it's yo. So for 10 minutes straight, and so every time I say yo or some other, you know, speak in Spanish, I always think of her. But now as an adult, I'm an attorney, I'm a mom, and it's hard to balance it all, but I do find, like, the not taking, you know, any crap from anybody, that, you know, she really did instill that with me. And I work in a very male-dominated field, and I do get a lot of that underestimating me, and so, sorry.
Grandma's, by the way, you take care of your kids like she did.
I would say that it's a very subconscious drive that really motivates me in a lot of my work, and trying very hard to manage my life and work hard and be proud of the, you know, the papers that I file and the appearances that I make. And so, you know, I've never realized it as a young girl at how much of an impact that would have throughout my life. But she really did teach me the value of taking the time, sitting, working hard, and being able to reap the benefits and feeling great about accomplishing something. So that's what I have to say about my grandmother, and she will be very missed. And so this one is to you, Grandma.
Grandma.
Very much, wherever you are out
Thank
there,
you.
Linda.